everybody for tuning in, watching the show. We're here with a group of men that we're going to go in on some wings. We got a new segment here at Thrive Church. You guys know what it's called? Take a guess.
No idea.
Come on, take a guess.
The Knight's Table.
The Knight's Table. You're too sick. It's called Wings and Things, baby. We're going to be going in on some wings tonight.
Let's get it.
We're going to be talking about some things tonight.
I
And
like that
before we
play
go
on.
in-
That was good.
You like
That was
that?
good.
You like
That was
that?
good.
That's how
You practice.
So I've been working on that one all week. No, so we got a new segment that we're coming out. If you haven't checked out anything we're doing here at Thrive Church, go to YouTube, go to every one of our social media platforms. But we're going to be having this new, hopefully monthly get together, both with the men and the women. We're going to be talking about wings and things, but we're not going to be talking about wings. We're going to be eating wings and then talking about things. Okay? So today's topic, we're going to be talking about men.
We're going to talk about men.
Men.
All right.
Yes, not your preference in men, Danny. However, we're gonna be talking. We're gonna be talking about.
It's that
We're
time.
gonna talk about the struggle that men have in 2020. So we already prayed for the food, so don't act like we're not being religious. But we're gonna jump in on it today. So guys, before we get into the topic about what it is to be a man in 2020, let's give a shout out to our actual local wing place, conveniently enough titled Wings and Things. Okay, so shouts out to Wings and Things. Thank you guys for supporting what we're doing. We shout out you. We're supporting you guys. We pray for much business and overflow and an abundance for your business. And we thank God already for the wings. So guys, let's go ahead and grab some wings. And here's the rule, okay? You guys got to grab one from each one. So we don't know what's on there. And if you don't like hot stuff, too bad.
This one looks good.
That looks good. Just grab it, man.
This one looks
What kind of wings do you guys prefer? Do you guys like the actual wings or you guys like
cooked.
the drumsticks?
Cooked ones?
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Drumsticks
is where it's at.
Hey, do me a favor. I don't care about nothing. Put your hands on. Grab me some wings going around there for me, guys.
All right.
Drop one of these on. I didn't grab one of these on there.
One of these, one of these.
There you go.
Yep. And let me try one.
So I also got.
Yes,
I don't
sir.
think I got one of those over there. Pass me one of those in front of you.
I got you.
You got one of those on there?
This is an exciting
Well,
time.
I only got 4 and there's 5 plates, so I'm missing
so
one.
the thing is this one here.
Give me
The
that
rec-
one over there.
Well, good thing is you know how to count, guys.
Yeah.
That's good, man.
That's good.
That's
Still
good.
can
We're
count.
starting off
Good.
good.
Some of
Okay.
us.
Alright, so guys,
Oh.
in order for you guys to get a nap, but Mo don't know how to count. He got like double.
Yeah, thank
You got an extra portion.
You're gonna have to throw me one
Pass
of
me
those.
some.
Throw me one of those
Pass
death
me
cannons
some
over there.
celery.
Jeez, man, why you give me so much of this?
Hey, I want to exceed your expectations, brother.
Oh boy, that's a tough
Alright.
time.
So guys, we're gonna jump in. Like I said, we already prayed. Grab some of that stuff. You know what? Somebody give me some ranch. I'm gonna drop some ranch here. You guys can't get a napkin unless you say something and participate. That's the rule.
Oh.
That's the rule.
No problem.
So get them hands.
No
going.
napkin.
Danny, you know, one
I
side.
asked for a spoon prior to us getting the thing,
Hey, listen,
but then y'all said y'all being too much.
Innovate, use a celery stick.
Okay, this is too healthy for me to touch.
Dude, give me the ranch, please.
This is dangerous, man.
Crunchy right there.
It kind of ruins the whole thing right now.
There you go. Just good like that right there. Oh, what is it? That's a blue
My
cheese.
son has been
I
into
think that's blue cheese. This
celery
one-
stick.
That's a blue
This
cheese.
is what dinosaurs eat.
Come on, man.
Alright.
You got the chunks, bro.
So gentlemen,
I need a napkin.
the topic of the day
No
is-
napkins.
is how hard is it to be a man in 2020? How hard is it to be a man? So I'll start it off, right? So I'll ask you guys a question. I was asking Max some questions behind off camera, and then I'll ask you guys so we can kind of generate a list of topics. As always, guys, you guys watching, we're doing this new segment called Wings and Things. It is not scripted. Nobody's come here with a platform before except for Max, who thinks he got a platform, but then I take over, moderate, and there's no platform. We're going to take it away from him. But he's always got wisdom anyway. So anyway, we're going to jump into it.
Oh man.
And so, what, you already got a hot one?
Oh boy.
So, guys, don't eat all the wings before we start talking. We got to talk too. So here's the question, okay? What are the things, let's start this off. I'm just going to free for all, okay? And I guess we'll go in order to make it somewhat reasonable. Manny, what are the things that are affecting men nowadays? And then we're going to dive into what you guys come up with. What are the biggest things
that are
affecting men nowadays?
2020.
Just you as a man, what have you seen?
Well, I think when you think about the struggles of a man in general, right?
So good.
There's a lot that goes into being a man, right? But 2020 specifically, you take a lot of those responsibility of being the head of the household,
Okay.
right? Being the rock to your family, being the provider, and then you put a pandemic, right, in the midst of it. I think in this season, just reflecting a lot, is when you think about what our role is in our household,
Mm-hmm.
and then you add the pandemic on top, it requires us to make sure that we're that man of the household that God wants us to be, but we need to make sure that we show up for that role,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
the pandemic brings a lot of things that affects our family,
So
right?
let's stop there, because there's one topic. You're already going all in. We're just talking
Oh.
topics. We just outline, son.
You told me to stop eating, brother.
All right. So responsibility head of the household, right? Okay. Mo, what's something affecting men nowadays, man? Even forget the pandemic. I know we sent you questions COVID related. We're taking them off the table. So.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about this stuff. Man, I need a napkin.
Can't get a napkin. You haven't talked yet.
I think for the challenge that men face today is kind of piggybacking off what you said as far as being knowing mental struggles, as far as knowing what it is to really be a man. You know, we go with what society kind of portrays what a man is supposed to be, but just to know what it really takes to actually be a man of God, you know, a man of faith, a man of courage, strength. I think that's some of the things that
We're gonna
face.
come back to that then.
Oh.
Good topic. Danny, you got the hot wing already?
Man. I went too fast, too quick.
Listen, being a man is not asking for a napkin, so you can't use that.
No napkins.
Napkin deficit in 2020 is what is the biggest thing. No, I think the biggest thing is the lack of masculinity that we're facing, right? So the
Oh.
yeah, I'm gonna go there as the youngest cat on this table. I'm gonna say it. As a millennial here, I'm gonna say that I think the demasculinity of men that we've gotten into, and how I'll tell you what. I think.
All right, wait, that's the topic.
Oh.
That's the topic.
Dang. All right, can I
That's
get a
the
napkin,
topic.
please?
No, you haven't said nothing wise
I
yet.
said
You just
that.
gave a
Oh,
very
it's
good
after you
topic.
tell us.
Look,
You
I
gotta
said
go.
something, and Matt said, "Oh." When you hear "oh," that means
Surprise?
like that normally means something like, "Yo, that's a bomb."
He just took a bite out of that spicy.
Yeah,
corn.
it was just
No, he still has it. Oh,
All right, Max, give us one topic, bro.
Wow, I think everybody has said very, very accurate things, and if I had to say something different, and it's related to what I told you off camera, I think that, first of all, we just don't know what a man is,
Right.
and starting from there, we have to pretend that we have it all together,
Right.
all put
Yep.
together, but that forces us to lie about our real condition in our marriage, real condition in parenthood,
That's real.
business, etc., etc.
All right,
Wow.
so we're gonna go down that road. Let's start off with that, and this is where we can talk, chime in, cut in, butt in if you need to. Okay, but let's go right on to that. So we talked about what is a man. I think that's the perfect place to start this first Wings and Things session, right? What is a man? And then Danny T wants to drop the hard stuff quick because he got the wrong wing too fast. All right. So what is a man in 2020? And let's do it from the perspective of okay, what? Because I know we're all going to be godly men here. We're going to talk godly, but let's see what does society tell us as men that we are or that we're supposed to be? Everybody's chewing them wings. What is a man?
I think it's there's been like a shift as into what we perceive a man to be, right? I think when we look at, for example, when we were growing up or whatever the case may be, the man is the one who's tough. The man is the one who works. He's the one that shows no emotion. He's the one that corrects. He's the one that disciplines. And we have this image of what a man should be, this grit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, I don't know what the heck happened, out of nowhere. Man, you look like you about to cry, man. You had a hot wing?
No, it's just, I'm getting inspired by your words, brother.
And then we had a shift. I don't know when it happened. I think it's when
So you gotta cry to get a napkin.
thank you. We had a shift as into now that old school grit
Thank you, sir.
is no longer relevant anymore. Right now, we need to have the emotional, loving, always just overly sensitive, that type of man. Where now it's like it's wrong if you're tough, right?
Right.
It's wrong if you have grit. It's wrong if you have some type of self-discipline. It's wrong if you have this assertive, want to push your family, push your kids forward to do something. So I think where we're at right now is where we've been told the reality of your nature as a man is wrong because it can hurt people.
Yeah.
Right?
It's toxic.
So
Yeah.
we have that, and we're not nurturing our boys to be like that to nurture that side of them. We want to just tell them, no, you need to be overly sensitive, or you need to be overly emotional, and there's a strange imbalance when it comes to everything that's going on. I think that has kind of made us very, 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 very not feminine, but non-masculine, right? When it comes to what it is to be a man in this age. So for example, COVID hit, and a lot of cats started to fold.
Yes.
A lot of dudes started to fold. A lot of men started to just be like, oh my God, I'm freaking out, and it's hold on. You need to, there has to be a point where adversity comes, and that manliness inside you says, no, I'm gonna fight this. I'm gonna encounter it. I'm gonna meet it head on, and I'm gonna go towards it.
Right.
Versus saying, I'm just have this desire to retreat, right? And I think we've lost that. So now we don't have this leader that can pull up a family, or we have lack of leadership that can pull up a family and say, hey, this is where we're going, regardless of what's going on. I know this is scary. I understand the emotions and the sensitivity that we need to have, but we need to, I need to lift you guys up and move us forward. And we've lost that to some extent.
So Danny, I got a question for you. So do you think that, you say we lost a lot of the masculinity, but part of us being a true man still involves some of that emotion and sensitivity, right?
Yeah. No, most definitely. Yeah, it's not too. I think there's a concept of the whole man, right? The holistic guy, right? Where your family knows, or your wife, or your kids, or your people around you know that you love them and you want to lift them up, right? But they also understand that they can look to you to find direction. They can look to you to get to that point A, that point B, or whatever the case may be. Versus saying, man, I can go to this guy just to feel coddled. And to feel loved, or whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, when you were kind of telling that piece, it's something that came to mind to me. One of the characters in the Bible was King David. Like, King David was known to being a vicious warrior. Right? He was known to go out and manhandle a lion and a bear, just with his hands, right? Mm-hmm. But we also in the Bible see God describe David as a joyful person, right? As someone that does have a desire to love people. Right, he loved his people. He loved his God tremendously. Yeah. Right, and so we did see a softer side of him. So that's something that came to mind. I think was worth mentioning is that we need to understand that we're inheritors of Christ, right? And that means that we have promises and we have empowerment, right, within us. Mm-hmm. Right. I think another way to say what you're saying is we lost our masculinity. I think we've lost that fire that God's put in us. Right, it's slow. That flame has gone down. Yeah. Right, when he wants us that flame to burn. Right. Mm-hmm. And in the midst of a pandemic or any situation, you're right. Exactly what we need to do is lift our family out of it, right? Yeah. We need to be the vision, right, to show them, hey, this is the direction we're going, and this is where we're gonna end up in a good place. Yeah. Right, not get caught up in the noise.
Yeah. So how do you guys balance the grit? And we'll come back to some of these topics, right? Because not only is it King David, but every single, and by the way, let's just talk for a second. I don't want anybody to misinterpret us, right? We're talking from a perspective of kingdom principle, right? Mm-hmm. But also we always, Danny and I on the after, we always say, hey, we really don't know what we're talking about half the time. Okay, we just pray that something we say is based on scripture, and that we're not going too far from that, right? And we're just trying to figure this out too, right? Because I always see people, oh man, bunch of macho kids, about that, right? Anyways, the reality is that there is a need for this balance, call it what you want to call it, that old school grit, and the new school sensitivity, which really is just, both of them are old school. It's just the reality is culture shift, right?
Yeah.
So you might have been in a culture where it was all about rough and tough. That's how you got to be, or that you grew up in the boys don't cry,
Yeah.
and now it's like boys have to cry. Like if you don't cry, like you're not, like it's like
You're not dealing with your issues.
You're not dealing with your issues, exactly. And the reality is there is this balance between this kind of old school grit and this sensitivity, right? As men, we have to have that balance. I got a boy. I know a couple of other people on this table have boys. Most of us have boys. And the reality is, as we raise them, where do we strike that balance? For somebody who's struggling right now, not only as a man, but raising boys or whatever, how do we strike that balance? And again, we're focusing on men tonight. If you're just catching this right now, we're focused on the topic of men. Ladies going to have their time. This is the men's time. Let us have some time. Please. Or we're going to cry. How do we strike that balance between that old school grit and the sensitivity? What do you guys think? Because that is, it's legit. It's legitimate. As you guys are thinking about it, because I clearly stumped everybody with the question.
Yep.
So I'm going to let you guys, know the way you think about it, right? There's a reality that God created us a certain way.
Right.
Like you see the example of King David. We can go all through examples.
Right.
Okay? It's not to be macho, but both men and women were created uniquely, and special gifting and special talents, things that my wife can't do, that I can do, or that I definitely can't do that my wife can do. And that doesn't show us to be weak, nor does that say that the women are weak. That just shows that we were uniquely created. We all have our differences. And women and men were strong in different things. We complement each other in other things. And what I might be strong at, Max might not be strong at, and vice versa. So there's no one thing goes all across the board, but we do have to have this balance of this kind of, all right, what old school grit, let's talk about that. What does that mean? What does old school grit mean? Is that rough and tough and tumble and fight mentality? Because, not everybody in history is that rough and tumble fight mentality. So what does it mean to be a man?
Well, I know old school for me, old school grit was, for a man not to show his emotions. No crying, or no, you shake my hand like a man. I'm not into the hugging and the kissing and all this affection.
No weakness.
Right, it's a sign of weakness. So yeah, you shake my hand. You look me directly in the eyes, make eye contact. Those for me was signs as far as old school grit. Growing up with my father and my grandfather. If you didn't do it, if you didn't make eye contact, or if you didn't shake my hands, too soft. And you didn't want to come across as being the guy that was soft. Mm-hmm. So for me, old school grit, that's my definition of old school grit.
Yeah, I think even to look at like old school grit, it's a lot of, I don't know, man. I think it's a lot of just principles of just principles of honor, right? So even in that retrospect, what you were talking about, Mo, when you shake a man's hand, you look him in the eye, right? Or when you're having a conversation with someone, you look him in the eye. You be someone who's of your word. You're not someone who just gets wish-washed through different things. And that, again, that sometimes, or for a lot of times, it was brought as this whole, man, you're not allowed to cry, you're not allowed to show your emotions, you have to be 100% all the time, right? But I think there's things of value that we need to take from that stuff, right? There's things of value. There's a sense of saying, hey, well, we teach kids, well, if you don't feel like it, it's okay. It's like, that's not life, right? I can't just wake up one day and say, well, I don't feel like being a dad today.
No.
Right? I can't just do that, right? I can't just, I don't feel
So
like
what you're talking about is there's certain principles that we need to know.
Yeah, it's the principle.
I would say that's not even just a man principle. That's just an everyday principle, right?
Yep.
All of us got to know that.
Yeah.
Of course.
But there's definitely certain principles that we need to learn to implement.
Yeah.
Right? What do you think, Max?
Great stuff, guys. I think that
What? These wings are really good.
They really are, man. Wings and things. Y'all doing some things.
well, I think that
Some wing things?
to get an idea of how to balance the let me step back, because I think that part of being masculine is being comfortable with your feelings.
Yeah.
So in the old school time, I agree, I totally agree with you. You know, especially when you talk about our great grandparents or grandparents, you know, where they had to work in the fields, work in factories under very extreme conditions. It didn't matter if you were depressed that day. It didn't matter if you were sad. You know, the great generation, they had to fight wars.
Yeah.
You know, it didn't matter if you were afraid or worried. You were in battle, and that's, you know, that's what mattered. Obviously, as time went by, and some issues arose, right? Like addictions and all kind of stuff, and we see it unfortunately on our dear veterans. We were taught how to be aggressive, but we weren't taught how to deal with our feelings. Because I think that men are just as emotional as women.
Yeah.
We just get turned on or turned off by different things.
Right.
But we are as emotional and as them, and I think it's a great thing. We value other different emotions compared to women. We value honor, we value respect, we value hard work. But if I disrespect you, you will become very emotional. You will become very offended.
But let's hold up. For all of our women, I'm trying not to get us in trouble too early on in our first episode, right? Like you said, we value those things. Let's just, obviously, we're not trying to say that women don't value those things.
Of course, no,
I
absolutely.
saved your life right there, bro.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. No, and
JJ needs a medal, guys.
I think that women obviously value those things too. I just think that as men we tend to focus on those things. So, but trying to find a biblical example of what a balanced man is, I think David is the perfect example.
Yeah.
David was a warrior, was amazing, was a king, but at the same time, if you read the Psalms, that guy was a very depressive guy.
Yeah.
Certain parts of his emotions fluctuated.
Very.
I mean, which we understand. I mean, we all go through that. Our emotions, depending on what we're facing at the time, our emotions does fluctuate. You may be happy or sad or depressed or because things aren't going our way. But one thing that we always knew, David, when it got too tough or too difficult for him, what did he do? He knelt and he prayed.
Absolutely.
Can I ask you guys a question?
And he was very open about it.
Yes.
Is it, because we're identifying some stuff here, right? That somebody who's watching might be like, okay, now we're talking about some stuff, right?
Right.
Is it okay to be the way we saw David revealed? Sometimes really going through it and express it. Is that okay?
Of course, I think.
Like as a man, is that okay?
I think it's part of your journey and the process, because if you think about King David, before he was a warrior or king, he was a servant, right? You know, if you really look at the transition of his life.
Yeah.
But was it okay for him to be like having his emotional roller coaster? That's what I'm saying, because we're here, we're talking, you know, we know each other relatively okay, relatively well, and we're probably relatively stable, right? But that doesn't mean we're not going through some stuff. So is it okay? Like if you were to talk to somebody who's watching this right now, some man who's like, yeah, man, I just need. A lot of guys, one of the things that Max brought up earlier was that a lot of men feel lonely in this time because they don't know, they feel like they can't talk to other people. That's my perspective. A lot of people feel like they can't open up to people and they should keep it tight. So the fact that we're saying, hey man, is it okay to be depressed or to have these issues going on, like to have struggles? Like, is it okay to have struggles, emotional and otherwise?
I think so. I think one of the things that I thought about earlier on is I went to DC where my mom lives in Maryland. And I saw one of my cousins that I grew up with. We just haven't seen each other for a few years and connected. And he was just doing great in his life when I saw him. And I was like, yo, I'm so happy for you, bro. Look at your family, it's growing. You're kicking butt. You're doing what you wanted to do. But then he kind of said, yo, it's been tough getting here. Right? And then that opened up a whole discussion about, yo, I went through some terrible stuff. You know, and I was like, you know, and then my brother was there with me, and I was like, yo, we've gone through that stage ourselves, you know.
Yeah.
And we started to specifically talk about the fact that that point, right? That men need to be more open to speaking about when they're going through things.
Yeah.
Right? And he's like, yo, why didn't you let us know? Right? You're like your family, bro.
Yeah.
Like if you would have gone through some stuff, we could have helped you out, but I couldn't feel. You know, and that's when we started to get to like, no, it's important, man. Men need to shy away from putting up a shield and not telling not even your flesh and blood that you're going through something.
Do you think we do that often as men? I mean, I have my opinion. I'm just asking what you guys think. Do you think we do that often? Do you think we put up shields unnecessarily? Like, is that something we see? Is that like what's going on with the men nowadays?
Yeah, I think that's where you start to find this issue where you have either two dudes that are way too tough, right, or you have dudes that are just way too soft. You have that issue because of the fact
I just give me whatever.
that we just don't have people around us that can really just build us up, right? We do everything on our own, or we try to do everything on our own, and that creates that issue, right? Because I think it's healthy to have these emotions, and it's healthy to have these issues. It's healthy, right? It lets you know that you're a human being.
Right.
Where I think there's an issue is where we start to get dictated by these emotions, and we start making decisions or lack of making decisions because of these emotions.
When you're dominated by them.
Yeah. So we don't have so let's say someone that is going through whatever it is that they're going through, right? They're depressed, they're anxious, or whatever the case may be, and they don't have other people around them to really just build them up, right? I think everybody, if we're going to talk about David, and we're going to talk about David and the things that he's done, we got to talk about Jonathan. We got to talk about Jonathan because Jonathan built that man. Jonathan protected that man. Jonathan had things that in his character that these guys were closer than brothers, right? They lifted each other up in such a way. And I think as men, we fail to do that. We fail to build those bridges. And that leaves us on an island. Either you are too soft and everything that happens in your life dominates you, or you're too tough and nothing absolutely affects you and you're on your own.
Alright, so if let's say I'm too soft, right? And I'm not, but whatever. Let's say I'm too soft.
Well, you know, we're not going to put them out there like that, but it's
The fact that you guys wouldn't be knowing that's not the case is all good. Y'all can pretend later. But here's the reality. Let's say I'm that guy who you're talking, right? Too soft. So I don't want no dudes to be offended, right? Who are listening because maybe they feel that way. But are you saying, hey, so what do I do? Like, I wasn't created that way. I was not raised that way. What am I supposed to do? What do you tell somebody who is legitimately going through something, legitimately struggling, and all he hears right now is, Daddy T called me soft. What do you tell that person now?
Well, if you don't mind.
no, please. Because I may not be the guy to talk to then.
Well, I think there are different kinds of strength. And I think that if you look at nature, nature shows us the different kinds of strength. For example, you see the Grand Canyon. Amazing, sharp, rough, right? At the same time, you see the Mississippi River, for example. Very calm. But under it, you see there's a lot going on. And you don't mess with the Mississippi River. If you block it, it will flood everything.
Wow.
That is absolutely powerful. And if you see two birds fighting, they might be tiny, but you see that they're fighting for their territory, with everything they got. So I think that God gave us a tremendous lesson through nature when it comes to strength. And we all have different personalities. I'm an introvert through and through. And just because I don't express myself in a certain way, it doesn't mean that I don't mean it. It doesn't mean that I don't have a backbone,
Right.
et cetera, et cetera. And the other way around, just because you hear a loud guy saying things, he might be the biggest crybaby.
Yep.
So the other way around, I'm not criticizing anyone for any. All I'm saying is that there are different kinds of strengths, and you need to get to know yourself, be honest with yourself, knowing what your strengths are, and go for it.
Alright, so I don't know how to know myself. I've been trying for a long time. Now what do I do?
Say that again.
You don't know
I don't know how to
yourself.
know myself. Like, I've been trying. I can't figure myself out.
Mm.
My wife will tell you it's a hard thing to do. But okay, I can't figure myself out. What do you tell that person? You know, because these sound good.
Yeah.
What do you tell that person?
No, it's
Well, let me ask you this. Let me put it a different way. Have you guys ever found yourself in a place where you were that person who was scared, who didn't know what was going on, who found themselves on uncertain grounds, or who found them in a place of loneliness, or found themselves in a place of depression? Have you been that person? Because we can talk all day, but have you ever found yourself in that position? Have you ever found yourself in a position where, you know what? Life does not make sense to me right now. And I don't know how to get through this. You know, because yeah, we can identify that there's different types of strengths. Yeah, we can identify that there's a need for a balance between the old school grit and the sensitivity, and we can look to examples of the Bible and say, yeah, this man, you know, he was gentle when he needed to be gentle, but he was a warrior when he needed to be a warrior. Okay, he was a poet when he needed to be a poet, and he just knew how to talk when he had to talk. We see those examples. But have you ever been there, and what did you do?